One of my favorite stories is that there's a country, I won't name the country, but there's a country where we had implemented some Firefly devices at a hospital, and one of the donors who paid for the program wanted to come and visit and see Firefly, and Firefly wasn't in the hospital. When that's happened in the past, either they didn't like it and they put it in a closet. With other medical devices, we've seen examples of finding medical equipment in the closet because they don't know how to use it. To be polite, he took this person sort of out of the room, twisted their arm like, okay, where is it? It turns out that the head of the hospital had taken it home to treat his sister's baby. And so we were saying, wow, some medical equipment, you can't get them to use it. They're stealing Firefly. They like it so much, they're stealing it. We wanted him to do a commercial, like, I stole Firefly from my hospital because it's so great. Pretty good reaction.
Interesting.
And he brought it back. I mean, he brought it back and they treated babies at the hospital.
And so what about any other stories?
Sure, just in general. I mean, people are really happy with how quickly it treats newborns. Typically it takes 3 days before a baby can be released from the hospital. With Firefly, it's 2. Yeah, so that was the incubator project. When we first started in newborn health, we had a lot to learn. So one of the problems with medical equipment is that it all breaks. If you go to you were in Uganda, if you go to a hospital, pretty much any hospital in a low resource country, they have a collection of broken equipment. You can go pretty much anywhere in the world and find someone who knows how to fix a car. And so one of our questions was, can we make an incubator, a warmer, such that if you can fix a car, you can figure out how to fix this device? Okay, so there are 4 C's you can buy anywhere in the world: Coca-Cola, cigarettes, condoms, and car parts. And so our question was, well, if we need spare parts, could we take advantage of that supply chain? Because really, you could go to anywhere. Have you ever heard the joke, the sculptor talks to Michelangelo, and he says, oh, Michelangelo, you're so good. How do you do it? How do you make a statue? And he's like, oh, it's easy. You start with a block, and you take away all the parts that aren't David. You know, that's all you have to do. So we thought, well, what if we took a car and we took away all the parts that aren't an incubator? Do you have anything useful left over? In other words, are there any of the car parts that would be useful? So it turns out that was the worst idea of all of the different ideas. If you think about a medical device, so say for example we used a light bulb in this device, how would you know, because many different light bulbs fit in that one spot, how could you make sure that they only put the right light bulb? With Firefly, we wanted to start from a very different position. So part of it was starting with the manufacturer. So by starting with MTTS in Vietnam and saying, what can you make? What do you make? And so what can you do now? And what do you want to do in the future? We were sure that, or we would have more confidence that if we made something, they would manufacture it. So that was a big and hard lesson.
So is your device, you mean it's very easy to fix?
In fact, it's designed not to break. So one of the things that we did is looked at, in a standard phototherapy device, what breaks. One of the challenges is that many electrical components have fans for cooling. The fan breaks, it's going to break. The other thing is, because they're using fans for cooling, what you find is that they're very sensitive to dust. When I travel overseas, so I used to live in West Africa, and because people are cooking with wood or coal at home, or charcoal, just the air is very, very dusty. And so dust gets into electronic equipment and breaks it. And so we realized we can't have a fan. We can't have any air holes. When I lived in Africa, I had a laptop, a computer with me. And one day I was looking at my computer and one of the dots on the screen wasn't working. Like it stayed one color. I looked closely, it was an ant. So an ant had gotten into my computer and crawled up into the screen and died. so there was an actual ant in my computer screen. A friend of mine who works in India says that you haven't tested your electronic equipment for India until you've trained a cockroach to go inside and go to the bathroom on every single part, because that's going to happen. So the other thing we realize is we have to close all of the holes. We can't let dust in, we can't let bugs in, we can't have any moving parts. So we eliminated all of those parts. Now the piece that's most likely to break is the LED. And so that was really the insight, is how do we eliminate all of the things that typically break so that it'll work.